say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch potatoes unite. Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite. Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! ! Which is based on a blog of the same name, because coming up with a new joke here every time is like a chilling adventure of our own. Mwahaha! So basically, I've got nothing. Enjoy! My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and we're on Spotify. Find us on any of those outlets to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, The Crown, Once Upon a Time, A Series of Unfortunate Events, Fuller House, Westworld, American Horror Story, The Good Place, Grace and Frankie, Supernatural, Arrested Development, and Jane the Virgin. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Doctor Who, Schitt's Creek, Game of Thrones, Will and Grace. We'll be launching new panels covering Mr. Robot, Charmed, Outlander, and the Breaking Bad universe. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll put out some musical stops for our crazy ex-girlfriend. We'll revisit one of the all-time and most watched classic sitcoms, MASH. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows and Comic-Cons. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, or find us on Apple iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and on Spotify. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback! Just don't sacrifice us to the Dark Lord. That's scary. And we're mortal. Come on now. Today we're around the water cooler and taking a first look at the first part of the first season of a supernatural horror web television series produced entirely by Netflix. The show is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and this is the first of a two-part miniseries in which CPU catches up on this newest show and a new spin on an old classic. In this episode, part 1 of this miniseries, we are discussing Season 1, Part 1, which was released to the Netflix streaming library on October 26, 2018, with a total of 10 episodes, which means, for the record, that this content is available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is a Netflix-produced original. We will discuss Season 1, Part 2 in the second episode of our two-part catching-up miniseries. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was developed by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa for Netflix, based on the Archie comic book series of the same name. The series is produced by Warner Brothers Television in association with Berlanti Productions and Archie Comics. Aguirre Sacasa and Greg Berlanti serve as executive producers, alongside Sarah Schechter, John Goldwater, and Lee Tolan Krieger. The series is centered on the Archie Comics character Sabrina Spellman, portrayed by Kiernan Shipka in this version, and also stars Ross Lynch, Lucy Davis, Chance Perdomo, Michelle Gomez, Jazz Sinclair, Tati Gabrielle, Adeline Rudolph, Richard Coyle, and Miranda Otto. Originally in development during September 2017 at the CW, the series was intended to be a companion series to Riverdale. However, in December 2017, the project was moved to Netflix with a straight-to-series order consisting of 2 seasons. Filming takes place in Vancouver, British Columbia, where both parts of the first season were shot back-to-back. The first 10 episodes were released on October 26, 2018, and the series has received positive reviews, with critics praising Shipka's performance, as well as the premise, visuals, and directing. In the first season, Sabrina must reconcile her dual nature as a half-witch, half-mortal, while fighting the evil forces that threaten her, her family, and the daylight world humans inhabit. The chilling version of these Sabrina adventures was popularly requested for discussion and beloved by some of our resident couch potatoes, all of whom appear on this panel. In fact, around the water cooler today are 3 of our frequent panelists and 1 occasional panelist, as well as your very involved moderator, all of whom are ready to get chilly with this new and improved ? Sabrina. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have watched all episodes of this series to date and may discuss sensitive plot points, so for those of you who have not watched any of the chilling adventures of Sabrina and plan to do so at some point, listen at your own risk as there may be major spoilers. At this time, I'd like to introduce the panel. Now, all of these panelists have been on the podcast before, and I'm going to remind them, as I will remind you, listener, that this is how this works. What I'd like you to do is identify yourselves by your first name, just your first name, not your life story, just your first name, and how you came to watch The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. What made you start watching? How did you find out about it? What kept you watching? That old chestnut. And then you get to answer along the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do, which is brand new and spanking wonderful for The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Are you ready, panel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Some enthusiasm harkens to the, we will see if it gets better with this character question. So how would you rate, now this would be after the first part of season 1, since that's what we're covering in today's recording. How would you rate your interest in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? You adore this show, especially the main character. Sure, weird things happen sometimes, but you're here for it no matter what, like Harvey Kinkle. Of course you love this show. It's your life. It may be too dark even for you sometimes, but you also believe it has something to say. You certainly appreciate this dark retelling for what it is, even if you crave a certain normalcy from it all the same, like Sabrina Spellman. You like this show? Most parts of it anyway, but sometimes you feel trapped by your circumstances and wish you could tear your eyes away, even if you can handle whatever the show throws at you, like Ambrose Spellman. You watch this show because you're protective of Sabrina and the legacy of the Sabrina character, but your feelings about this latest chapter in her saga are decidedly torn. On the one hand, you admire this retelling and love the new portrayals of old characters, but on the other hand, you feel it might be too caught up in the dark forces, which muddles the story, even if your intrigue in those dark forces is unerring, like Zelda Spellman. You watch it because your best friend watches it, though you're not shy about your opinions, which are decidedly mixed, like Roz Walker. In some ways, you fear this show, though it's somehow become a part of your life as your family enjoys it. The dark and sinister parts leave you feeling very uncomfortable, like Hilda Spellman. You love the dark and twisty atmosphere of the show, but don't care for the Sabrina character. You know she's too vanilla, and that part offends you more than any other part of the show itself, like Prudence Knight Blackwood and her weird sisters. You dislike the show, but for the dark and twisty atmosphere. You can't be bothered about anything apart from serving the Dark Lord, like Father Faustus Blackwood. Or you can't help but hate this show, though there is something winning about the Sabrina character. You serve one master and one master alone, and so your efforts in recommending the show are to recruit people for a certain church and a certain army, and you'll go to any lengths to assure your plans, like Mary Wardell, a.k.a. Lilith, a.k.a. Madam Satan. Who would like to start?
Hi, I'm Selene, and my life story, I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's not what I told you to do. But hi, Selene.
A very long time.
Oh, yes, I'm Selene, and what made me start watching is, well, I remembered loving Sabrina growing up, the Teenage Witch, and I was like, ooh, look at that trailer. That is so much darker than I'm used to. Let's go. And then I did. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. And so what makes the character for you in that description?
I feel a lot like Ambrose. I liked the show for the most part. There were things that I was like, but I just felt like I couldn't tear my eyes away. Sometimes I wish I did, but I didn't. And I just really liked it. And I handled most of what the show threw at me. So definitely an Ambrose.
Welcome back, Selene. Selene, you appear on a variety of our panels, including The Good Place and a series of unfortunate events. And what are some of your other panels?
Person of Interest. I was also on Sense8 and a lot of other ones I don't remember. Oh, a series of unfortunate events.
I said that. So that covers some of them.
Yep.
Well, welcome back, Selene.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi. And I started watching the show kind of the same way Selene did, because we're married. I saw the preview on Netflix and I was like, hey, that looks really sweet. I also remembered enjoying Sabrina the Teenage Witch growing up and thought that the darker telling looked really cool. So, yeah, I watched it. But I think that I'm trying to remember how I felt at the end of season 1, part 1, and not let my feelings after watching all of it influence me. But I believe that I feel that I am Prudence.
Oh.
Because I really like the show, and I like the dark and twistiness, but I think Sabrina's annoying. That is how I feel.
And so there it is.
There it is.
Welcome back.
And I believe I was still feeling that even at the beginning of season 1, part 1.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Kelsey. You are on our Supernatural panel, and you were also on a series of unfortunate events and The Good Place and Sense8.
Yeah. And Vampire Diaries Once Upon a Time.
Oh, right. But not Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time.
Right.
But before Vampire Diaries ended, I was on that, is what I meant.
Correct.
I don't know. Yeah, other ones too, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm sure too. Welcome back, Kelsey.
Thanks.
I'm Jen, also
Jen.
known as Jen K. Whenever there's another Jen,
But there
that's on the
isn't
panel.
another Jen, so you can just be Jen.
I know. I need to specify to people, though, in case they can't tell our voices apart. So, I grew up also on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I heard through the grapevine when it was happening that it was going to get developed into a series, because I knew it was based on a small spin-off of of a comic book for Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then just kind of following along. I don't really watch... I think I was like halfway through season 1 of Riverdale and I kind of gave up on it. But Sabrina, it kind of helped having a little bit of the nostalgia background for me to keep my interest for it. And in terms for which character probably best describes my interest in the show, I would say I'm a mix between Sabrina and Ambrose. Unfortunately, as soon as Kelsey mentioned that Sabrina was annoying, like, that kind of summed up what I was thinking as well, so I can't get that out of my head.
Okay. But you don't want to go so far as being Prudence and her weird sisters?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. Welcome back, Jen. Jen, you're on our Supernatural panel and our series of unfortunate events panel. And help me out.
The originals, when that was still airing,
Right.
iZombie.
That's right.
Gallivant way back in the day.
Yeah. Good job. Welcome back, Jen K.
Thanks.
Who is really Jen on this panel.
I'm Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
And I came into watching Sabrina because I was watching Riverdale, and I love the nostalgia of Riverdale, so I wanted to give Sabrina a chance because I love the original, and I love this one even more now. What kept me watching was the different spin on it, like how it wasn't the fluffy, fun, teeny boppy, but now it's darker and more chilling. I am really torn as to who I am character-wise, because I really kind of love the whole Sabrina view of it, that I appreciate the dark retelling of it and the normalcy at the same time. But I'm also very Zelda, because I went in like, I have to protect Sabrina. Like, this was my childhood. I have to make sure it's done right. So I would think I'm a mix
of Zelda and Ambrose? Or Zelda and Sabrina?
No, Zelda and Sabrina.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Welcome to the panel, Jessica. Jessica has also appeared on our Riverdale panel.
I did.
And will continue to do so.
And sat very quietly through Once Upon a Time.
You did. You were the silent panelist. Well, welcome to all. And of course, my name is Kylie, and I am both moderating and participating today, as I often do. I came to watch The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina mainly because there was a panel who requested it. I watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch very casually back in the day because I was a little old for TGIF. It was more my sister was watching it, and I just happened to sit down and watch Sabrina, and I didn't mind it back then. Of course, by this time, our Sabrina the Teenage Witch panel will have come out, and my true feelings will be known. But I didn't know how I felt about The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but the panel requested it, so as usual, I watch it. And I kept watching it because it was different. Mainly because it was so different, and I was intrigued by that difference. I don't know that I loved it, but at least I was intrigued by it, and I was intrigued by all the differences that they incorporated with the characters, which we'll talk about, and the story, and the fact that they, made it all satanic and whatnot. So, if I was going to put myself as one or two of these characters, I think I would put myself as an Ambrose. I liked most parts of it, but did wish I could tear my eyes away sometimes, although I mostly handled it. I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to horror, so I wrote that one with me in mind. But I also probably would be Roz, because my friends watch it, and I'm not shy about my opinions, and they are decidedly on the mixed category, even if they're more positive mixed than negative mixed. But we'll get into that as we talk about The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Part 1, Season 1, Part 1, today. Now, we get to do a fun thing, because as we're taking a first look at The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, we now get to do the super fun star rating scale, which panelist Hillary, my sister, likes to call the star business, although that is not a TM. And I just keep repeating it. I don't know why. But what this means is you get to rate the show overall, how you feel about it in general. And of course, I read it with much inflection. So this is how it goes. Do you rate the show overall 5 stars? Holy smokes! You have to watch everything. It's the greatest chilling adventure of Sabrina you could possibly think of. It's way better than Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It's way better than horror supernatural TV that you know of. 5 stars. Is it 4 stars? It certainly seemed intriguing. You're continuing to watch, but you see possible pitfalls in the premise. Is it 3 stars? You've probably watched a good chunk of it or a big part of it. You're going to try to give it once more, but there are things you like and things you don't, and you're kind of hanging on to see which things are allowed to flourish. Is it 2 stars? Maybe you really only watched part of season 1, maybe only the first part. Chances are you're mainly bored, although there is some intrigue or fascination that could hold it together, no matter how unlikely, though you might be ready to jump the shark as you sit here. Or is it 1 star? Pass on this one, guys. It's a snoozer. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not scary. It's not satanic enough. It's not your cup of tea. There are just way too many options on TV right now to waste time on this one. 1 star. And I will say, half stars are acceptable, but don't get cute with your fractions. Who would like to start? Math is hard, and I average it.
I'm definitely a 4 star on this one. I want it to be a 5 star really bad. Like, I want it to be like, oh my God, I love it. But I'm a solid 4.
Any particular reason why?
I think because there were parts where I was like, this is a little much, but not enough to knock it down to like a 3 or anything farther down than that. And there were times where it dragged, but because of the nostalgia for me and loving the darker shows nowadays, I'm sitting pretty happy at a 4.
I'd have to say that I'm at like a 4.25, so 4 and a 4th stars.
So little cute, Selene.
Cute.
I know.
The angle of the star.
Stop being so cute.
Okay, you're 4 1/4. Why?
For a lot of the same reasons that Jessica is. I mean, like, I really enjoyed this new part, or this new take on it. I really liked bringing up the darker aspects to it. I really liked a lot of the new characters. Honestly, I kind of have to say that Sabrina herself kind of brings it down. Like,
wow.
So
there's a running theme.
Well, and I mean, and I, not that I'm on this panel, but I feel much the same way about, like, Orange is the New Black. It's just one of those things where I really like a lot of the supporting characters, but the main one's the problem.
So you're making Sabrina Piper? Is that what you're doing?
Kind of,
yes.
Yes, she's a teenage Piper.
Oh, boy.
Sabrina the Teenage Piper. That's what we're renaming it.
Oh, gee.
And actually Harvey, too. Like, I have a lot of problems with Harvey. Like, I love Roz. I love Theo. Or, what's Theo's name at this point? I don't remember.
Theo.
Theo is still Susie in part 1.
Susie, there we
Yes. Oh.
See?
Sorry.
I don't know. I really miss Salem being
Oh.
a fucking cat. I love Ambrose, but I miss Salem. But, I mean, that's getting further into the weeds. Like, I would have to say, like a lot of these character changes really brought it up for me, but at the same time kind of brought it, like, mixed bags feelings. But for the most part, I think positively of the show.
Fair enough.
And I really like it, and I talk about it a lot.
I'm shocked.
Are you done?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Dynamics.
Cool.
So are you going to talk?
I'll go next.
Okay.
4.
Because?
The end.
No. We need a little bit more. It's a podcast.
All right. I mean, mostly for... I guess I just didn't feel the need to... I didn't need to elaborate because I think I just am piggybacking off what they said.
For my star rating, I'd probably give it a 4. I would give it higher, but it is a relatively newer season. Obviously, season 1, there's some points that they could work on. But kind of like what Selene said, I did really miss Talking Salem, but I think Ambrose kind of filled in that void a little bit. Obviously, not the same thing, but enough to keep people interested, at least that wants something or something/someone snarky. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for it to maybe get bumped up to 5, but we will see.
Oh, great. So for me, I've been thinking about this because part of me really likes the show, but part of me also struggles with the show sometimes. In the first 10 episodes anyway, there is some tedium there for me in certain episodes. Like, I almost feel like 10 episodes was too many for that first part, but maybe it gets better in the second part. I don't know. Hashtag haven't watched it yet. But what I would probably rate this 4 stars, although that's more generous than I'm probably normally about to be on a show that I feel this sense of lukewarmness about. I don't know that I find Kiernan Shipka to be as annoying as some of the other people on the panel. I don't know that she's any more or less annoying than Melissa Joan Hart. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, no, she's not.
But there are things that I really, really like about the show, and there are also pitfalls that I see in the premise, especially since they have gone down the dark retelling road. You know, Archie Comics is not necessarily known for its dark and twisty atmosphere, so it just kind of makes me wonder where the show's going to go. I think there's a lot of originality that could arise from that, but there's also ample opportunity for them to paint themselves into corners too, which may or not be the case as it goes. So, hooray, we did the star business, despite chilling adventures. So now, talk to me about season 1, part 1. Did you like the show right away? Did you have to let it grow on you? What did you like? What didn't you like? Talk about it. This is what we're here to do.
So after the first episode, it took a while for me to get into it. Again, just because it's very different than what it was from the TV series that I grew up with. Again, no snarky Salem, but watching it, like, once I kind of got into it, like, into a groove, that definitely helped. I think once it got to, like, episode 3 or 4, that's when I was like, okay, I want to keep watching. I'm a little bit more invested now that I have a little bit more of a backstory.
I feel that I wanted to watch it more when Michelle Gomez came on the scene. Because first of all, I was like, hey, that's Missy. She's from Doctor Who. She's the female master. And she's really awesome. And I really want to watch her. Yeah, she's on Doctor Who. So I was very, very...
like that.
Yep. Selene hasn't seen that far Doctor Who yet. She's behind.
You need homework. Oh, so you should do that. But she
Right?
does... Yes.
Right.
So she appears on Doctor Who, and I'm a very big fan of her. I think she's very charismatic and a really good actress. She has
I love her.
Yeah, she has a real knack for playing off-putting yet charming at the same time, which she brings to full effect in this character. So it was when she first appeared on the scene, and I don't know if that was the first or second episode when she first kills the teacher and then kind of takes on matters of looking after Sabrina. That's what really made me intrigued about the show. But I agree with Jen. It probably took a couple of episodes to kind of get the tone and feel and settle into it because it is so vastly different. And I do agree, Salem was the best part of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and it's hard not to have a talking cat.
For sure. But I was like, well, I mean, we get sassy Ambrose instead, and that's like okay too.
Although so somebody please explain to me why half of them are British and half of them aren't?
Yes, thank you.
casting.
I just stopped questioning it after a while.
I mean, eventually you have to give up, but it really took me out of it for a while. I was like, why is he English? And why is she English? Why is the sisters, one is, well, technically Miranda Otto's Australian. Why is one of them one and the other's the other? She was Éowyn in Lord of the Rings, Miranda Otto.
Oh.
I'm full of all of these today.
Yeah, I didn't like recognize any of the like actors or actresses that were in this series, even like when it was like first getting announced. I was like, oh, I don't know who that is or who that is. But like the only one I actually knew of that like I heard of was that Ross Lynch was like a Disney Channel kid, and then he was Jeffrey Dahmer, I think. He played one of the serial killers in like a Lifetime movie or something like that.
Yeah, he was Jeffrey Dahmer and My Friend Dahmer.
That's it. That's what it was.
Why do you guys know that?
I like serial killer things sometimes. Don't worry about it.
She's like, hashtag no judgment. Okay, just fair. So what else did you like or not like? You're a quiet bunch.
I was kind of the flip of it. Like, the first episode really took me in, and I really enjoyed it. But then, like, it kind of got a little stagnant for me, and it got way too Satan-y for me for a minute. Like, everything was Hail Satan, and oh my Satan, and Satan this and Satan that. But, so, it was, like, great, and then slowed down, and then got great again for me. But that's definitely where I was. So, it grew on me, ungrew, and then regrew.
As somebody who is very much into listening to all the really dark, awesome, like, satanic, like, creepy podcasts, like, I wouldn't necessarily say satanic, but, like, Night Vale is my shit, and, like, a whole bunch of all those things, so, like, the creepiness was, like, the biggest, like, plus factor for me, so I was immediately, like, pulled in a podcast, Bizarre States, and it was right after it came out, and they were talking about the fact that Sabrina had taken not Sabrina, but you're all throwing me off.
Hold it like an ice cream.
Shush. I'm sorry. I'm not usually the one talking into the mic. I'm usually the one at the other end.
But remember what you tell the other people to do.
Yeah, you're the one telling other people to do it. Celine, you need to lead by example, okay?
I'm sorry. So, I was I was listening to a podcast at the time called Bizarre States, and they were talking about the fact that the statue at the school was basically directly from the satanic temple in Detroit.
Yeah!
And I was like, oh! So then it made me, of course, really interested, and I looked up pictures, and I was like, yeah, no, that's straight up, yeah, they're bad. They screwed up. They needed to at least ask.
Yeah, and, they got sued for it.
I was like, we need to watch the show, though, because obviously I'm hugely into all this stuff, and I was just like, yeah. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I loved the darker take on witches, and like actually delving into all of like the satanic stuff and talking about it and seeing the flip side of it from people who don't think it's creepy and like not treating it as, oh, it's a gimmick, like it's like they treat it legit, and that's super exciting to see that for once. And I don't know, I just was like very much all up into it, and I enjoyed it.
You know, they got
this is real weird right now.
They got sued for using that statue. You know that?
Yeah, I do.
Oops.
They had to settle with the Church of Satan, which is weird to say.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, they were authentic at least? Question mark.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Maybe a little too authentic.
Apparently, it's a trademark infringement. That raises a whole bunch of questions, Church of Satan, but that's okay.
Yeah. I remember back when, because this is also going to be a series eventually on HBO, the one that Golden Compass, when they tried to make that a movie in like the mid to late 2000s, like the Catholic Church was really pissy about it because the bad guys they called themselves the Vatican, and obviously the Vatican is like the authority for the church, so they got really pissy about it. But I don't think they got to the point where it's like, oh, well, we're gonna sue you guys because you're calling us the bad guys, essentially.
Well, it wasn't even just, that's his dark materials in this story, is it wasn't even just that they used the Vatican, but Philip Pullman, who is the author, is an atheist. So they had a very big problem with the appropriation of but Catholics, they just burn books. They don't sue people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry, all you Catholics, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, there was more of a worldwide banning rather than a lawsuit that was filed.
Oh, I was in high school when that happened, and we were strictly told in my school, because I went to a Catholic school, that we weren't allowed to read it. And if they caught us reading it, then it would have been trouble. But, well, first off, they also said the same thing about Harry Potter. I read that anyway. But also the Catholic Church is going through some other shit right now, so maybe that's the least of their problems.
Wow, this has gone theologically commentary. Maybe so.
Yep. Anyway, I think that Sabrina is super entitled and annoying. I don't like it. And
Explain.
I think that directly correlates with the previous series from the 90s as well.
Okay.
But I also think
lunch.
that they took way too much time. And I understand that it's a series and whatever, but there was way too much time drawing out I'm not gonna get my dark baptism, blah 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 blah. It's literally you're a witch, and that's what this show is about. So let's just do it. Because I don't know, it was really annoying. I was really annoyed.
So yes, Sabrina from Sabrina the Teenage Witch is a super brat, and I have feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I did not feel, the brattiness of this Sabrina takes on a different turn because she's not acting aside from the dark baptism, I'm going to defy the Dark Lord business. She at least tries to help her friends, and there's a little bit more of a social justice angle about her. So that entitlement to me didn't rub me quite the wrong way so much as the Sabrina Spellman of the 90s.
Yeah. I keep watching.
You keep watching?
I know. I'm really trying to remember what.
I'm trying to remember why she bothered me so much, and I think maybe it's in the second part or in... I'm trying to remember.
She has a very precise way of talking. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh yeah, no, that's annoying. But no, it's in the way that she assumes that what she's doing is going to help people and that she knows what's best for people. With the whole bringing Tommy back and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And things like that. I can use my magic to help you, or I have to look at plot points to make sure I don't get ahead of myself.
No, you're right.
But
that happened in this part when they...
I know that. I just didn't want to get ahead of myself with other things.
And Tommy is Harvey's brother. They get trapped in the mine because the Weird Sisters are basically trying to take them all out.
Right.
Can I just talk real briefly about how much I love the Weird Sisters? And by that, I mean particularly Prudence.
Yeah.
She is such a better Libby than Libby ever was.
Yeah.
I have to agree that the Weird Sisters add sort of an interesting supernatural Mean Girls element to it.
Yeah. I don't think that you can even call her a Libby. I think she's a whole other...
She's out Libby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never a big fan of Libby, but she left. So is that all you wanted to say about the Weird Sisters? That was brief.
No, I want to say a lot more, but I'm having problems remembering how much happens before. This is the problem when I watch everything ahead and then have to go back without remember where I'm at.
I'll give you a prompt. Where part 1 ends is when Sabrina does finally have the dark baptism and takes on the tree. And then she joins the Weird Sisters, and that's the last frame you see. She's walking down the hall with them.
Right. Okay. But that still doesn't help me remember where everything else with the Weird Sisters is.
We don't know
anything
that you're thinking.
Do we know who Prudence's dad is yet?
Yes, we do. Yes, that does come out in this part. Yep.
Okay.
We do know that?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Because remember, Zelda tries to help the wife, and the wife tried to kill Prudence because she knew that Prudence was Blackwood's illegitimate daughter, and so she tried to make her the sacrifice for the feast.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The queen of the feast.
Oh, the Feast of Feasts.
That was an episode.
Yeah.
Would you care to elucidate on this thing we call a podcast?
So, talking about how awesome all of the, delving into like these satanic things, including like the dark baptism and all these holidays or whatever they have, the Feast of Feasts, like delving into something like that, something so dark and so like outside of our realm of thinking about things, like that's not even something that like I could fathom, and then to have them be like, oh no, that is such a great thing, like just is mind-blowing. And just all of the I'm losing words, the theatricality, not only like filming it, but just everything about that episode was just very wow. I don't even have a better word for it than wow. It was just very mind-blowing in a very unexpected way.
Well,
I don't know.
I will say that the show, generally speaking, even if the writing kind of leaves me feeling occasionally like, okay, we've been over this, or we're kind of repeating some stuff, the directing is really awesome. Like, whoever is doing the episode direction really knows how to set a tone and a pace, and I think that's very, very consistent. So then when you do get episodes like the Feast of Feasts, or like, the one where she, with the reckoning or whatever that's called, I forget what that's called, the ritual where they basically try to haze new people, and there's ghosts of the children that have been hazed, that scene, or even the tree when she takes on sort of the entrance to hell. All of those scenes end up being really impactful because whomever is directing these episodes really knows how to channel that stuff. And it makes me wonder, not being a member of the Church of Satan, just how much of this is actually part of that religion and that they've appropriated, and how much of it is just made up. Because I watch Supernatural, we see demons and stuff all the time, but it's never gone this dark as a general rule.
Well, I mean, they did get the statue down to a T, so I'm assuming that they're looking pretty close into it, maybe a little too close.
Maybe.
One quick segue for it, like when they keep talking about the Dark Lord, I have to keep reminding myself, okay, this isn't Harry Potter, they're not talking about Voldemort, because they call him that too.
I mean, technically, I think the Satan dude had it first, but...
Details.
I know, I mean, I don't,
The OG Dark Lord.
Yeah.
So what else did you like, or what didn't you like specifically?
I really liked how, at least for me, I don't know if it was for anybody else, but for me, like, I would love characters and then hate them, and then characters I hated, I loved and got so much more respect for. Like, for me, it was Prudence. Like, at first, I did not like her at all, and then you find out that she's, lived this not so great life, and she's really just kind of living her life because of how she's been dealt the cards, and she ended up being one of my favorites at the end of the show, or at the end of this miniseries.
Yeah, I don't know that I experienced that, really. I mean, maybe a little with Prudence, I guess. She does become more sympathetic. I think Zelda becomes more sympathetic, but they also make really terrible choices that slingshot them back into, do I really have that much sympathy for them? I think every character on this show is morally complicated, Sabrina included. And so really you just have to kind of decide, is this really truly a hero-villain type of atmosphere, or we're looking at anti-heroes and sort of quasi-villains who are just caught up in this world that isn't exactly the norm.
I will definitely like piggyback off of that, talking about how everybody is very like morally ambiguous and very morally complicated. Like Zelda's character, like that, I think that was the biggest shock for me in this series, was the change of Zelda's character. Like, I don't think anybody changes as much as Hilda or Zelda, except for maybe Salem, being as he can't talk.
Zelda and Hilda, I would actually lump Hilda into it, because even though she's kind of dim-witted, the Caroline Ray version is much more feisty and spunky and enterprising and courageous in a sense, but in a sort of like a risky way. Like, she does things without thinking, but it's kind of brave if you think about it. Whereas this Hilda is mousy and subservient, and she eventually gets some of her own self-realization and agency, but it takes a while. Whereas this Zelda is she's very of the world, but she's also she's basically the poster child for devout member of church.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, going back to the Feast of Feast episodes, how she reacts, being a very devout member to the church, to having to deal with possibly having to sacrifice Sabrina, and dealing with the repercussions of all that stuff. But Zelda's moral compass is just so, like, you understand and you can follow it, but it's just very there's moments where before you understand where she's coming from, you're just like, where did that come from? Like, what's going on here, Zelda? I'm confused by you. But then you always end up being able to go back to it and make sense of it later, even when initially you're like confused, which I really, really like, but it's really frustrating at times. Like, I think I really enjoy the character development of Susie and Roz. And I mean, Harvey too, but to a lesser extent, mostly because he's not my favorite.
He is kind of like the most milquetoast character on the show.
I know, which is, again, I think that makes Sabrina even more annoying, because then she's like, oh, but Harvey, and I'm like, he's not even that great. Like, I don't know. Again,
I was gonna say, have you guys read anything about like the comics with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, or you just watched the show?
Just watch the show, although I have looked at them and it's always been nice.
Have they made a new comic series, or are you talking about the Archie comics?
No, they're actually
so it was a
series to go.
Yeah, so this was, I can't remember the years, but like the premise for it was actually like a sub-series for Archie Comics, where it was like this dark retelling of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. They reset it, I think, in like the 50s or 60s, and they had Betty and Veronica from Riverdale / original Archie. They were actually made in the comic book as witches, which they were the ones that originally brought back Madame Satan.
Oh.
But, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I won't spoil anything too much, but just wait for Harvey's character, or rather the actor. He'll have some interesting things in the future.
Did you read them?
I've read it through, it was like, 8 volumes, I think, technically. I think I'm through 7 right now. So I have 1 more left.
Huh. I'm fairly interested in reading that, now that you bring that up. Nice.
The more you know.
Do. So Selene, you just, or maybe it was Kelsey, one of the two of you brought up the journey of Roz and Susie. How do we feel about them as characters? I mean, on the one hand, she's basically one of the 2 of color representation on the show, and then the other person is an openly trans character.
I thoroughly enjoy I like both of their storylines. I think it's very interesting getting to see an openly trans character living in a world. And also, what? Why are you laughing at me?
Did you want to throw an adjective in there? An openly trans character living in a world. It's really good to see that.
You don't that is perfect. You don't get to see it very often. Like,
no,
not put out on every
representation.
Whatever.
Dynamic.
Sorry.
I don't get it.
I really enjoy getting to see an openly trans character represented in TV and have their story. It's also really interesting. I don't remember if this is. Why are you doing that?
I'm sorry.
She's trying not to laugh at you because you changed your adjectives, which now I understand was the joke.
I'll be fine. Just here.
We're having some chillin' adventures. We're chilling.
I've thrown her completely off the Does the entire Sophie's Choice given to Theo happen, or to Susie happen in this season, or is that the next?
No.
Okay.
Susie is Susie all the way through the end of this part.
Do we even know that Susie goes by Theo at this point?
No.
Okay.
No.
The last thing we know is that she's talking, and she's she at this point. She's talking to Dorothea, her ancestor. And we've only gotten as far as to know that Dorothea has informed Susie, and then Roz, by virtue of Susie, that Sabrina's a witch.
Okay. And Roz where's Roz's storyline then?
She's got her visions, and she's starting to go blind. She hasn't completely gone blind, but we've met her grandma, and she's kind of talked about that curse on their family, and also has brought up the history of witches in the town.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
I guess I'll start here.
I've recovered.
I'm sorry. I really enjoy Roz and Susie's storylines, especially in the fact that we're getting to see other people besides witches in the supernatural world, with Roz being a vision.
Clairvoyant.
There we go. Clairvoyant, and Susie's entire communing with the dead. So, what's that?
That's also good. A medium. She's a medium.
Yeah, with her like medium abilities, and I really enjoy the fact that in this story we get to see. I'm so sorry. I'll just turn myself up there.
Yes, do that
Then
too.
I can talk further away.
That's brilliant.
I really enjoy the fact that they're not just background characters who always have to have Sabrina save them, although we do get a little bit of that, but they also are able to help contribute to everything. Like, they're not just being saved all the time. They have their own abilities, and they're contributing, and I really enjoy that, and I really like how spunky both of them are.
Yeah.
They both are their own character very much. Like, they're not just random background characters, and I really enjoy that.
I'm interested in seeing how they interconnect and intersect in the next part, which apparently has a lot of stuff in it that is being alluded to that happens. Because I don't watch ahead, because I'm a podcast producer and I watch a lot of TV. Okay.
And, in all fairness, it was one of those things we started watching it a year ago. And we got real caught up. And then, we got suckered into it. And then we were like, we want to be on this podcast. And that was...
Yeah, I think we actually finished it before the podcast was an official thing.
Probably you did.
Yeah, I think we did. I was just going to say that I enjoy the representation, and I think I like that they don't come across as just the token friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And I guess there's really 3 persons of color, because I forgot about Ambrose.
Yes.
Who is also pansexual, according to the Wikipedia.
Oh, yes. And that's super canon. There's definitely scenes in the show that back that up.
Yep. I mean, that seems to be a very witchy thing to be.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of orgies in the show in general.
Supercalia, anyone?
I must have missed that part.
I think that's
Sorry,
in the
that
next...
wasn't me proposing that we celebrate to anyone, if that's what that came across.
I think that's in the next part.
Yeah.
Is what I was...
I don't remember necrophilia, but thanks for the spoiler.
No, Lupercalia.
I don't know what that means.
It's a festival or a holiday or something.
Oh.
I don't know. It's in the next part.
Sorry.
I still don't know. Yeah, I still don't know what you're talking about.
To look forward to.
Okay.
Apparently.
Hashtag foreshadowing. Okay. Is there anything else you liked or didn't like?
I love how much I hate Lord Blackwell.
Oh, yeah, he sucks. I was just going to say that, too.
Oh.
He sucks in a good way, or he sucks because he's, sucks?
Like, what a douche.
Yep.
He's really good at being evil, and mad props to his character. I hate him.
Like, he's
absolutely
not just evil, but just like the corrupted figurehead. Like, he's really good at that. I don't like him.
Also, the corrupted figurehead who is like so sexist. Like,
oh yeah,
spot on.
Well, it does seem to be very traditional in the Church of Satan, apparently.
Yeah.
If that's
I was
what
so mad Zelda slept with him. I was like, no, Zelda, you're better than this.
But is she, though? Because this Zelda is very...
I wanted her to be better than this, then. Sorry.
Okay. I don't think she
She's
cheats
not
it.
living up to my hope for her.
She's not Beth Broderick's Zelda, that's for sure.
Nope.
And she's not even Éowyn while we're on the subject. So...
I'm still holding out.
For her to be Éowyn?
for her to have an Éowyn-like moment.
Okay.
I am no man.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Of course, that's probably copyright infringement. So nobody has anything else to say about whether they liked or didn't like, other than Father Blackwood. Yeah, he's kind of he's a good villain, a good B-villain to Satan himself, I guess, / Madam Satan.
I love Madam Satan.
For the listeners at home, there is a look of wonder on Selene's face right now.
Like, let's just say if there
Are there hard
I would
eyes?
fail.
Are there hard eyes?
I would fail.
What did you just say? Oh my.
Repeat it.
I just said if there was a temptation, I would fail.
Because you have hard eyes for her?
Kind of.
Got it.
Like, she's so evil, but she's just so good doing it. I don't know. Like,
you really have to watch Doctor Who.
I know.
gotta
I'm
get
trying.
through the
I'm
Capaldi
trying to get her
series.
caught up, and she won't do it.
I
Now
agree.
maybe you will.
Doctor Who.
Yes, because if you like her here, you will love her there.
You will love her as Missy. She's seriously the best.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Well,
But
okay.
piggybacking with Madam Satan thing, I was like, am I supposed to love her as much as I love her? Is this okay? Is this allowed?
If it's Michelle
Like, is it
Gomez,
okay?
it's allowed. She's great.
She was fantastic, and I was like, you're awful, but I love you. But like, I'm not supposed to.
also, how does Sabrina not know something is up with her? Like, for real.
She picks.
It took her forever.
Yeah, she picks up on it, but it did take her really. But you know, that's again another charm of that performance. Like I said, she can play really off-putting and really charming at the same time, and I think they just maximized that to full effect. And for me, it was believable that it took, because Sabrina's looking for someone to trust in this first part. She doesn't know if she can completely even trust her own aunts. She can trust Ambrose, she can trust her cat, she can trust her friends. But when it comes to the adult figures in the town, she has a really hard time trusting them. And Madam Satan / Mary is basically the person who earns her trust, but does so with an agenda. So we know, and we think she should know, but I believed that she wouldn't know right away necessarily. I think she needed that from her until she got the veil pulled from her eyes and realized what she'd gotten herself into.
That's fair.
I was gonna say, even with it, I think at this point, I don't think she knows that she's Madam Satan. I think she still thinks that the teacher is actually just a witch in general.
Right. Sabrina does, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, she still doesn't even know the whole truth yet.
Well, I think she, at the very, very end of this part, she realizes that Mary is not Mary.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, I don't know that she knows that she's Madam Satan, but she at least knows that she's not Mary, because I think Mary tries to position herself as someone that her father, who is still a witch in this telling, or warlock, or whatever they're going by, she positions herself as somebody that her father asked her to look after Sabrina. And then when Sabrina says, "Who are you really? You're not Mary," she then says she was a secretary. He was her father's secretary, and that they had kind of a flirtation. And that's, I think, where we left it. And we don't even really truly realize who she is until probably the last handful of episodes. She also kills her familiar.
Yeah, that was pretty epic, actually.
That was kind of hard for her. So yeah, Michelle Gomez, if you're listening, first of all, tweet at us, CPU Podcast, but also, great job.
Yeah. Only I don't know if I'd be able to talk if we... Yeah, never mind.
Wow.
You don't need to talk.
Wow. This has become serious. So anything else you want to say about the show before I ask you some of these first look questions? Hearing none.
Yeah.
So has everybody watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Yes.
Yes.
So which show do you like better? Here's the $1 million question. Do you like chilling or do you like fluffy?
Chilling.
Definitely chilling.
Right now, I gotta say fluffy.
Oh.
I think kind of what I was saying earlier, where it's like it's still pretty early on for season 1, and again, college years for Sabrina definitely weren't as great as the high school years. But I think part of it is because I have so much nostalgia and so many like good memories watching Sabrina. Still trying to again work out separating the two, but at least for right now, in terms for legacy wise, I think that the fluffy version of Sabrina would have a little bit more legacy, like in the years to come, compared to chilling. But it's still pretty early for chilling, so my answer might change. But right now, I'll stick with fluffy.
I don't think that you can really... I think they're just so different that I don't know. Because it would depend on my mood.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do agree with Jen that I think that the original probably, I think it might be too hard or too soon to tell, but I think the original probably has more like staying power, especially because it has so many celebrity cameos and
Talking Salem.
Talking Salem. I mean, yeah, I'm getting into the later seasons of that now, and I'm like, ooh. But the early seasons of that were really good, I thought. I mean, not, amazing because it's a sitcom, but good.
Well, and I think in a way you can't really compare them well, first off, like, you're right. Sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch in like being a sitcom, there's a lot less substance, there's a lot less trying to make as serious a plot and a storyline. And I mean, like, they're cute, they're fluffy, there's, it's kind of quick. And in The Chilling Adventures, like, you're creating this whole heavily, deeply involved plot line.
Right.
And also I think they're both kind of revolutionary in their own way, because when Sabrina the Teenage Witch came out, you had, like, it was like the resurgence of witches as a possible good thing. Like, prior to that, everything was witches are dark, they're bad. There's very little, like, oh, the witch is a good thing, And now we've gone through the 90s where there was that resurgence of witches, and now we're going back into witches can be a good thing, but here's a really dark version of it that also goes back to the possible satanic connections and is exploring it in a way darker way that I'm not sure that we've had anything do before. I think in their own right, they're both taking two sides of that coin and messing with it. And I think that you need to have almost both of them to create the full legacy that I think Sabrina eventually will. Like, I don't know that you can disconnect one or the other and be like, this one's going to have a better lasting power, because they're both, I think, revolutionizing stuff in their own right.
Well, it's also different time periods, too, because it's been, like, nearly 20 years since Fluffy Sabrina was on air. Granted, it's, like, very different times, and also they were on Prime TV, so there was only so much that they were allowed to even do without getting in trouble with, like, the FCC and whatnot.
Right.
Geez, Selene, that was a very impassioned and academic response to this. Because
I think it's easy. Like, you can definitely compare, like, characters and stuff like that, but I think as far as being, like, what's a better show, I think it's just so hard to, like...
Yeah.
Actually
I don't think you can...
Other than being like, I feel like watching a comedy, or I feel like watching this dark, crazy shit right now. And then I would be like, yeah, well, obviously.
Well, see, and I'm going to side with the Selenes and Jessicas of the world. I think the Chilling Adventures are better because, I'm probably the oldest one on the call, I'm pretty sure, by a few years. And so Sabrina the Teenage Witch just does not have that nostalgia for me, TJIF. I was a little bit far past by the time it came on. Number one. Number two, there's a lot of issues. Now that I've watched almost that whole series, there's a lot of issues with Sabrina the Teenage Witch, even in its sitcom format. Like, characters would just up and leave, no explanation. There were some
that's true.
really dumb situations and others that were more intriguing. And yeah, Salem was by far and away the best part, but you couldn't make a show all of Salem either. He was a one-line, one-note kind of a guy, so...
Aww.
I mean, he just was.
Right. Yeah, I know. I know. I think they made Sabrina repeat her junior year during that time too.
Oh, I don't even know.
In high school.
I don't even know. All I know is that I've never, no disrespect to Melissa Joan Hart. I think as a person in real life, she's probably a stand-up kind of gal. But between Clarissa Explains It All and this show, I kind of she bugs me. She bugs me a lot. I'm just going to say it. But for this one, I was just going to say, for this one, Kiernan, she doesn't bug me quite as much. Sure, she bugs me a little. I think that's fair, but she doesn't bug me quite as much. And I like the fact that there's an actual through line on this story, as opposed to the situational aspect of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, especially because Sabrina the Teenage Witch grew awfully repetitive by the end of its run.
Oh, yeah. I will say, though, in real life, Caroline Rhea, who plays Aunt Hilda in the fluffy version, is very, very nice.
You've met her?
I have, actually.
What?
So earlier this calendar year, when I used to work at the Opera House in their box office, she was doing a little like mini comedy tour and she performed.
And you said, "Hi, I watched you as Aunt Hilda. Can we take a picture?"
No, I wasn't that creepy.
Aww.
We were just talking mostly. She definitely looks a lot different than like you would expect from seeing her on TV. Not that it was a bad thing, but like I had to do a double take. I was like, wait a minute, that's her. Like I didn't realize that was her.
Well, as you said, she's probably, 20 years, give or take, older.
Right.
Okay, so we have 3 pro-chilling and 1 pro-fluffy and 1 who says, I can't make a decision because they're too different.
Correct.
Okay. Next question. I know one person will at least answer, well, 2 people will have this answer. I don't know about the other 2. Have you watched Riverdale, which has been advocated as being in the same universe, not only literally because of the Archie Comics tie-in, but also because of basically the TV shows? The CW and Netflix are trying to work out something where there could be a crossover. That's been rumored. Have you watched Riverdale, and what do you think of that, and which one do you like better?
I have watched Riverdale.
She has. She's on the panel.
I am on the panel. I like them both in their own respective outlook. I really love Sabrina for what it brings. I really love Riverdale for what it brings, how they both tie in dark aspects of everything. So I can't really pick one or the other. I do so hope for a crossover, though, between the 2, because I feel like it would just be an amazing thing to see. I know with it being on 2 different platforms, it could be a little hard to do because, like you said, one's on CW, one's on Netflix. But all in all, if they could make that crossover happen, I feel like it would just be an amazing episode.
I've watched Riverdale. I think I like Sabrina better, but that's just because I like the supernatural. I'm more of a fantasy horror person anyway, as opposed to Riverdale, which is basically like a soap opera with the Archie comics.
Not giving anything away, because I don't know how far you've watched with Riverdale. There
Only
is
through
like
the
a
end of
supernatural
season 1.
Oh, sorry.
I don't watch ahead because I watch all the TV.
Right. There,
you can foreshadow.
Comes in. That's all I will say.
Creepiness.
There is a supernatural aspect that comes in.
Oh, intriguing. Interesting.
I
don't know how I feel about that. Okay.
I do not watch Riverdale, but I don't remember where I was having this conversation, but somebody else was talking about Riverdale and Sabrina, and they were complaining that Riverdale doesn't have like as good a plot follow through as Sabrina. So that's all I know.
Jessica, do you have feelings?
No, I have a headlight shining in my eye.
Oh! I thought you were shaking your head like, no, that's not true. That's not even true.
I also do not watch Riverdale, and I mentioned it to a friend who does watch Riverdale, and she said, it's not good. Don't watch it. But she watches it. So I don't know what that means.
Stunning, Rack. What were you going to say, Jessica?
I was just going to say that I do agree that there are moments where it doesn't seem like there's a plot with Riverdale. Like, you got to be really committed with it to watch it. But I just love it, so I give it all.
There is definitely a guilty pleasure aspect about Riverdale, which I think is more true of Riverdale than of Sabrina. Just because Riverdale is... Yeah. Now, I'm not further than season 1, but they're I mean, it's basically soap opera TV. It's got a touch of Dynasty, a touch of 90210, a touch of a few other things that you might have watched in your past, and then you put Archie and Jughead and Betty and Veronica in it, and you start to have scrambly brains. But that's for our Riverdale podcast, which we already have, because Jessica's on the panel. Okay. So 2 people say we haven't watched Riverdale because somebody told us not to. Jen was like, I tried, but heck no, I left.
Yep.
And Jessica persevered.
I tried.
Fair enough.
Like, I even grew up with the actor that plays Jughead back when he was on Disney Channel, and I was like, he can't even keep me on here anymore. Like, I tried.
Cole Sprouse, you have some draw.
Yeah.
So the show was created... What?
I said I didn't know he was on that show.
He's Jughead.
He was on.
That's
he
amazing.
looked very.
I've seen a lot of photos on Tumblr, and I never picked up on that. I don't know if I'm just very oblivious or what.
So
Well, he also dyed his hair like jet black, so he looks very different from Disney Channel days.
So Selene and Kelsey, here's what I'm going to say about Riverdale. I think there are things in it that you both could like. I see Selene liking it more than Kelsey.
Do you mean the possible we're flirting with possibly getting Betty and Veronica?
There are those shippers. There are those shippers.
I've seen that. I almost watched because of that. But
Yeah. I don't know that they've
quite get there.
actualized that. But yeah. But there's also, there's just a lot of, there's some salaciousness to it. There's a little bit of mystery involved. There's a redhead for those who like redheads.
They have musical
Who are you
episodes.
talking about? I don't know who that is.
I mean, I'm just tossing it out there. So there are things to like. Now, whether there's enough things for you to stick with it, that's a whole... So you might try to sample it, is all I'm saying. But I'm not giving that a solid recommendation because I'm not even a huge super fan of it. I like it. I just like it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to see an emo Cole Sprouse, just watch it so you can see him be a little emo boy. It's great.
Yeah.
Yep, there's that too.
He's also the narrator, which is fun. So, of course, I relate to him
I've heard
not
of
from the Disney Channel, but because he was young Ben on Friends.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
Somebody is Gen X in his house, okay? All right. I even brought back his house just now. The show was created by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who also created Riverdale. So would you watch Riverdale based on Chilling Adventures of Sabrina or our ringing recommendations? See how
Not your ringing recommendations, but possibly because of Sabrina.
Honesty is the best policy. How does Chilling Adventures of Sabrina compare to other TV shows, including other supernatural or horror TV?
I think it's darker than most other supernatural or horror TV that I've seen.
I think the only thing darker that I watch that I can think of off the top of my head is American Horror Story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I cannot think of anything that is darker. Supernatural, anything, nothing on network TV. And I don't watch a ton of horror shows, but there are a few on the list. I cannot think of anything more dark or more graphic than American Horror Story. Would be the only one. And that doesn't even go into a satanic church.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and again, as I mentioned before, for Sabrina, obviously, like, they're on Netflix, like, obviously they still have to follow some rules, but, like, they don't have to follow the same regulations as, like, primetime TV or, like, TV after 10 p.m. for, like, the cable channels. So they have a little bit more wiggle room for that kind of stuff. Obviously, like, they still need to follow, like, the law and the rules and stuff like that, but I think they definitely get a lot more freedom than like what Supernatural could potentially get, or same thing with like American Horror Story, because they're not actually like on like Prime TV or cable TV.
Just to be clear, I think American Horror Story is darker than Sabrina. That's what I
Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Because it is on cable and it is after 10, so they still include swearing and sexy stuff and a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
There's really no limit to what they do on American Horror Story. That's the one that I think, that's the one show I can think of that is darker than the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that I personally watched.
I would have to agree with that. Like, and American Horror Story's entire point is literally like, how horrific can we get?
Yeah.
And, like, so, I mean, I think they have a little bit more.
I still don't understand why I still watch it, just to be clear.
Wait, what?
I said I still don't. Sarah is one of our panelists, and we're both on the American Horror Story panel, and we both exchange the comment at least once an episode when we talk about that show. We don't know why we're still watching. This is really not in our wheelhouse. Because it's so out there.
Yeah, no, I've fallen behind on that show, like, greatly. Like, I haven't watched since season 4 consistently.
Oh.
So, it's one of those things I'd enjoy watching. I've fallen behind because I've, fallen into other things.
I recommend going forward if you can, although season 7 is the worst one by far, so you can skip that one if you want.
Which one's that one?
That one's Cult.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the one with the post-Donald Trump election and the clowns?
Correct.
Ugh.
We had very strong feelings of the not good kind after watching that season.
Okay.
So now, the next $1 million question, the $2 million question. Would you recommend the chilling adventures of Sabrina to others? Why or why not?
I would. I mean, granted, it would depend on who I'm talking to, because obviously I'm not going to start recommending this to people who are faint of heart or very Catholic.
Yes.
Although maybe just to screw with some Catholics, I might.
I mean, I would just to mess with them.
Aw, so Catholic listeners, be on the lookout.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, just like what Selene said, is like I'd recommend it, but only for someone I know that's like interested in that like kind of genre essentially, and know that can actually handle like the gore and the content in it. Like if it was like a 10-year-old that was essentially into like all the spooky stuff or like Disney level spooky stuff, like I wouldn't recommend it to them. But if it was like someone our age that liked that stuff or was like kind of interested, then I was like, oh yeah, I think you'd really like this. You should watch it.
I mean, I'd even go a little bit further than that, and I would challenge a couple of people and be like, no, like you might be a little off put by some of it, but I think it's a really good like eye opening experience, and it has the opportunity to like help expand, I think, people's way of looking at things. Which
So
might
again,
be giving it a little bit too much credit, but like I wouldn't necessarily say, "Oh, this is totally outside of your wheelhouse. Don't watch it." But I might be like, you might have some problems with some of the things in it. I really do enjoy it, and I really like it, and I highly recommend it. But I might just put a caveat on there and be like, "Hey, warning."
Yeah. So what you're saying is that you would recommend it to Catholics.
Well, I mean, I would to screw with them, but also yes, maybe.
Yes. I mean, different mindset.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in that same, like, I kind of touched on this with the Riverdale panel. Like, I suggested to people that I know that that's kind of what they're into. But I've also suggested it to people that are like, I want to try something new. And I'm like, well, here's like something classic that's a whole lot darker now. Have fun. Kind of that whole, you suggest it to people you know that'll like it, or someone that you want to challenge and be like, you know, it may, like they said, it may get hard at times, but it's worth a shot.
Kelsey, would you recommend it? Yes.
I would. I think with the same, I have the same feeling Selene does. Like I would if it was somebody who was like, hey, I really enjoy like horror TV shows or dark TV shows, or you know, if I thought that it was a genre that they would enjoy, then I would definitely recommend it. Otherwise, yeah, maybe with some caveats or something. But I definitely think it's a good enough show to recommend. I just think that I recognize that it's not everyone's cup of tea.
I would agree with that.
Or chalice of blood.
Whoa. I would also agree with that assessment. If they told me they liked American Horror Story and they liked Supernatural and they liked stuff like Castle Rock or the haunted, I can't ever get that name right, the Haunted Hill House, the House on Hill, whatever it is on Netflix, those kind of shows, then I would say, have you tried Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? It's not your Sabrina from yesteryear. But if they told me that they weren't into that kind of thing, Catholic or not, I don't think that I would recommend this show or foist this show on them, especially because people do tend to listen to me when I say these things sometimes. So I would have to, in good conscience, I would have to limit it to those folks who share this kind of interest in terms of dark fantasy, supernatural horror, because it really is very unique and very niche in what it's trying to depict and to portray, and not everybody's going to fall into that niche, and that's probably why it landed at Netflix. So
Probably, yeah.
Did you think of what you were going to say, Selene?
I did, and I don't know if this is one of the questions that'll later come up, but I would just like to really compliment Netflix on this reboot, because it didn't just take a show and then redo it. It legitimately reconstructed it and reworked it and put serious thought into it. And if you're going to reboot something, do it this way. Like, find a new way to look at it. Like, I cannot emphasize enough how grateful I am that this isn't just another reboot where they're literally just redoing it. Like, hats off, bravo, amazing.
That's lovely. Nice sentiment. Agreed. So now here's the question. Here's another question. No, you're fine. Selene, we love your passion always. Are you going to keep watching?
Yes.
In fact, I already have, but I will keep watching after that too.
Has everybody... So here's another question. Has everybody besides me watched ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't watched ahead, but again, I read the comic book of it. Or graphic novel. Whatever it's technically called.
I've only watched a couple episodes moving on. I haven't gone completely all the way yet.
Okay, phew, I'm glad I'm not alone. That's good to know. But everybody's going to keep watching then. Yes?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome, because they're going to keep watching, and when they keep watching, or, refresh or something, we'll be talking about part 2 of this season, and we'll get to hear all of the sort of resolution of the foreshadowings and the spoilers that were very carefully done this episode. At this point... No, you're fine.
Stop apologizing, Selene. We know you're sorry.
There.
You're
I'll
just
start saying spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. You can say that. That's fine. We say it all the time. You can add your own spin. Is there anything else that you haven't said? Any other feelings you haven't shared you want to get out before we sign this one off?
My only question, I don't know if anyone's heard of this, because obviously part 2 is out on Netflix. Do we know what's going to happen, if there's going to be part 3, part 4? How
they have
it's going into?
They have renewed it for season 2.
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's it so far, but they've renewed it for season 2.
I'm assuming that they're doing a part 2, a part 1, and a part 2 of season 2 too, because if you look on IMDb, each part of the season is part 1 or season 1, so they have up to season 4 on IMDb. But I'm assuming it's once again, part 1 and part 2 of the seasons technically.
Okay.
Anything else? Well, since it's chillingly quiet in answer to that question, what I'd like to do now is thank Jen, Jessica, Selene, and Kelsey for joining me today to talk about part 1, season 1, or season 1, part 1 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And because we've done that, it's now time to roll the spooky credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kelsey Rezmer. Kelsey played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole kit and caboodle was engineered and produced by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give us stars, give us comments, give us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a message. We might just read it on the podcast. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what we should keep, what we should toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter at CPU Podcast, and Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We always have several more new episodes coming down the pike. Just listen to our intros. And if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find us. We are everywhere and searchable wherever you look for things on the internet. You can search for us, or you can subscribe at our website, our channels, our social media accounts. Stay up on our new events and episodes. Until the next time, all available seasons of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina are available to stream on Netflix, as that is the network that made it. Not that we're trying to prop them up or whatever. In the meantime, our Sabrina panel will next reconvene very shortly, in fact, to talk Season 1, Part 2, and Episode 2 of our 2-part catch-up miniseries. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Bye-bye.